Good, hello, welcome back to another random palm reading. I'm Pisces Palmist, the online palmistry reader, reading the hands of complete unknowns, deciphering all that I can from the hands alone. Now, as usual, I know nothing about this person except that they are born in 1977 and from what I can gather from their questions alone. Now, this is where we begin our journey. Completely unknown person here, just their hands. And at the end of this palm reading, I'm going to be able to understand a lot more about this person as a person, their characteristics, their traits, their skill set, their perceptions, their potential. And because palmistry is the most accessible and the most powerful tool for self-discovery, empowerment, self-awareness, self-improvement, self-development, it is literally attached to our hands. This is why it's just so effective at understanding the deeper questions in life. And these three questions I can really get behind. Do I make money in relationship? Am I a spiritual person? I love that question. What type of career should I be doing? Now that's a question I can get behind using palmistry. I am looking to change. So of course there are a few things that I can delineate from questions alone. That is technique known as cold reading. And that's not something I want to invest in. What I want to discover is all that I can from the hands alone. Now, as a rule of thumb, part of my formula in reading the palm is, first of all, discovering all you can about the hand type, what the hand shape and the fingers can tell you, before moving on to the more complex palmar information, the lines in the palms, and what that more complex information can tell you, because it's important to find out as much as you can as a sort of template and filter that more complex information through afterwards. But immediately I'm drawn to the very unique Palmer features that we have here. And it looks to me as though we've got something of a simian line at first, and then I'm drawn to this, which it sort of appears as though that's the headline. This is a very low lying heart line that reaches right over onto Jupiter. And then you've got something of a doubling of a heart line. As I say, in that the right hand appears very differently in terms of the chirology. So let's have a look at what we can determine first of all through the chirognomy, that is the hand shape and the fingers. First glance, I thought this was a useful hand type that you can read more about on my website, on my blog, on my website, the 12 hand type method. But then I realized that there is more sensitivity. The palm is somewhat more elongated and appears softer and warmer. Truthfully, this is a mixture, a combination between the useful and the practical hand types. As I say, please do check out my website to find out a bit more because I don't want to double up on explaining what these things mean. But to summarize, a great deal, what really matters to this person is loyalty. There's a great sense of feeling, a great connection between the heart and the mind. It's essentially what happens when we have a simian line, and we've almost got that here. It's a very unique collaboration of the structure of the palmar lines here, because we have both here the head and the heart line. They're not completely fused, but they're acting on a similar frequency. And so it's not really possible for this person to make a decision without emotions being attached in some way. And so for people with this kind of strong kind of psychological feature enhanced by the doubling of the heart line, it's it's almost certain that someone who thinks and feels in this way will get involved, will gain a greater sense of job satisfaction if they have a career where they feel they're making a great change, where they can feel as though they're making a difference and improve the lives of many. And that's always seen with a headline that reaches right across the entirety of the palm. That's a sign of someone whose mental actions, if you like, their decisions, affect the lives of many, reaching right over into outer Mars. In many respects, the most reliable image I have here is probably this image of the right hand here, because it's taken flat on, and that way we're not distorting findings as an angle can make all the difference. The long arm and short fingers certainly fits with the fire type, and in this way, again, someone who is heavily motivated by their own feelings and what inspires those. And in the way that they work and operate in the world, others see fire hands and are in turn inspired by them. There's a great deal of, unconscious inherent feeling towards considering others, supporting others. This person's sense of morality and duty is bound by their talents and how they can affect and influence the world at large. And being that this is much more apparent on the left hand than the right, this really shows us that internally their thoughts and feelings about what they should be doing is really, how can I make great change and help others? How can I impact on the world positively? How can I make a mark, and really gain a sense of satisfaction from helping others? It's almost as if the tip of Saturn here is sort of they're asking the self, because this is the left hand, what should I do with my talents, my abilities, to implement these talents and create a reputation? This is the Apollo finger. It's all about talents, creativity. How can I create? And my reputation. Notice as well in both images, on the right hand, the little finger, the gap between Apollo and Mercury is greater than on the left hand. You see it here as well, significantly so. And because we've got two images, two frames of reference, it's not a one-off. One's strong and heavy. It's relatively low set. And again, this is partly a sign of a humanitarian. And there's a strong the sense of feeling about this person, and how they are impacted by their feelings, how they're influenced by their own feelings. It tells me that this person finds it very difficult to let go of past hurts, holds a grudge potentially. In some ways, they may be at odds with their own past in this way. Little finger is it's low set, but it's not short. When we offset the length of this against Apollo, and also this person is actually quite able to verbalize, but their emotions, they find it probably very difficult to articulate their emotions in relationship. They're very good with their head and their hands, and this is that kind of practical element to them. There's a combination here, a complexity, a duality, and and because of this, they they struggle with understanding and articulating their own internal complex thoughts and feelings. And part of the reason why I say they're good with their hands is because we can see a very keen angle here of proficiency, sometimes known as the angle of time as well. This person's timing is quite good, and again, that's a very sort of practical sense of timing, routine, structure, order, and these are all very sort of earthy traits. This person is both fire and earth. I would say more fire than earth in this hand. But the earthy element of them keeps them grounded, thankfully, luckily. And a sense of structure is really needed. And this sort of earthy quality again highlights and enhances this need for loyalty, the the strength of their feeling around what loyalty means for them as well. I suspect that they have relatively few, a kind of reduced social network. And I say that because of the lifeline. And the way is quite narrow, it's quite sort of cutting in quite closely around the thumb here. But that's going to change somewhat, or at least it already has, because of their age. And their age, as I said, born in 1977, so that makes them 47. On the lifeline, this lifeline that I mentioned that's, kind of narrowing in on around the base of around Venus, there is something of a long distance travel, and it's not far away for them. It's right around the corner for them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm gonna first of all begin to answer their question. Do I make money in a relationship? I love the specific nature of this question. I want more of this, but never mind what I want. Now, to see the signs as to whether or not someone will make money in a relationship, I suppose there are several, and I would first of all try to understand the nature of a person before answering that question, because what money means to a person will um, create the palm to answer those questions differently. Everyone has a different idea of success and what money means to them. For one person, a sun line will mean nothing but money. For another, the sun line means nothing but happiness, health, family, joy, literally. So, being that money means different things to different people, it's really important to understand who we're looking at. The useful hand, crossed with a practical hand, does view money with usefully and practically, that it is a tool, and it can buy happiness to a certain degree to a useful and or a practical hand. It's certainly not everything. I would think there's actually, to just summarize, a very generalized, there's a healthy understanding of what money is and what it can do for it. But once you've really, understood who you're looking at and what money means to that person by looking at the chirognomy, it's then important to start looking at the signs of money and what that means in the hand. The sun line is obviously partly a sign of that. The headline and any kind of flicks upwards towards outer Mars from the headline will show that. The ending of a Mercury line is essentially a money line. And what you can actually see here is this is a heart line and a headline, and it overlaps to create, it kind of comes into its own. It becomes its own headline, and the heart line in turn becomes its own as well. And there's this sort of bridging of the gap here as well, which is actually very healthy. Um, anywhere where we see breaks essentially is a potential for danger in some way, risk in some way. Now, the headline, when it becomes the headline, where it overlaps here, it sort of hints at rising upwards, as I say, towards outer Mars, and this person thinking about the need to gain money to secure a future. And where we see that kind of hinting at rising upwards, it looks as though it kind of wants to come into connection with what looks like a Mercury line, which, as I say, finalizes in a money line. Now, to me, this is suggesting that this person is on the cusp of making a big decision that is going to impact and influence their potential financial success in later life, the later stage of their life that they're encroaching on now. Being that they're 47, they're quite literally middle age and in the middle of their life right now. There are many signs to look at when it comes to whether or not a person will make money in a relationship. One of the others is, of course, the relationship lines, or marriage lines, or union lines, attachment lines. There are lots of names for these lines, and lots of arbitrary meanings have been derived and determined, drawn from these lines alone. And it, I don't like reading these lines and trying to conclude from them, especially um, timing relationship. It's very difficult. But the earlier the relationship, the lower down these will appear above the heart line. and the higher up, the later on in life. So for a relationship like this, it's not to say that this person will only have one relationship just because you can see one relationship line. I do actually believe I see another here and potentially another here, both of which did not appear to have ended well, if that's what I am seeing. It's kind of blurry at this point. But this relationship right here, the reason why it shows up in greater strength is because it's more impactful. This is the right hand. The right hand shows us the practical, the material, the physical, the environmental. It's what's on the outside. It's how we're being affected literally, physically. How this person is being impacted by the relationship practically and environmentally. It's showing up greatly. So this is a potential sign of this person and the union, their marriage, essentially impacting on them financially. Now, if we were to see this marriage line or relationship line carving a line into the hand and rising and reaching right over up into Apollo and hitting this Apollo line or sun line, success line, money line, as sometimes people like to call it, I don't, then it would show that a relationship is in some way they are, let's say, getting involved with a famous person or a very, very wealthy person, and it's affecting them, it's impacting on their life positively by this, financial support, if you like. So this is one of those signs. If we were to see this marriage line kind of strengthen and creep across the palm and rise and touch and support the sun line as it rises upwards and create a kind of route towards success and happiness and joy, which is what the sun line, success line represents in the palm, then that would really show us that's what that means. Now, that's not to say that because we're not seeing exactly that, that this isn't going to happen, because marriage lines change all the time. I mean, really quickly. I've seen them change in a matter of a few days. So it's really important. It's one of the minor lines in the palm. I would say even more minor than a sun line. And because of that, the more minor the line, the quicker it can change. The quicker a circumstance in our life can change to make us or enable us to meet the right person. It's who you know, after all. A chance encounter can happen on it. I miss my bus, I catch another bus, I meet someone. And so all of a sudden, situations and circumstances snowball to allow and enable me. And so that's why these minor lines can just change so drastically. But that's a potential sign. Another sign I would look for is actually looking for a triangle on the mount of Venus. Be a bit more specific, that would be potentially the sign of someone who's making money out of the use of understanding love and relationships. So more like a sort of marriage counselor, talk show host, that kind of thing. But another place, actually, a more common sign would be to look at the sunlight and look at how it's developing. Where is it coming from? What's supporting it? And it looks to me as though there is support from um, firstly, the heart line, and this is always a common sign, a classic sign of success through support of a loving relationship. So this is a potential sign as to what this person's asking. Will I make money in a relationship? Well, the potential for it is there, partly because we see it kind of stemming from the heart line here, because this is an overlapping heart line. But we also see it come into contact with the secondary overlapping heartline. And then there is a connection here with the lifeline. And what I think this means is I actually think this means something else. And I'm going to explain what I think this means shortly. Just to kind of conclude a little bit here, I would say that this person will create the opportunities they need to inspire. Change is coming, and that change is going to inspire opportunities. It's who you know, as I say. And they're going to meet they're going to really increase their domestic sphere, their social network, the amount of people they know in their life, and this will increase the amount of opportunities, and these opportunities will come. And for very soon for this person, they're going to gain a great sense of happiness about life. When I say very soon, I mean it's a couple of years, I would say, and that it'll be a new chapter of their life. Actually, I don't think I see enough here to really conclude with any um, accuracy that this person will make money in a relationship as such, but I do think they will make money. I do think that they will increase their earnings. They will feel happier because they will be earning as much money as they feel that they are providing, you know, put into their role. At the moment, they're not feeling like they're making as much money as they should be, given the amount of effort that they're putting in to their role in life. And actually, that's, I think, has is always kind of been that way for this person. This is a hard worker. Practical hands, useful hands always are. But the the fate line appears really sort of lacking. And that shows this person isn't making as much money as they should be, so struggle to make money. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And I think that there has been good reason for that as well. I think this right here, you can just about see the square here, and this little moment right here, I say little, it's not little at all, where we see the heart and the headline kind of overlap, and as I've mentioned before, breaks in any line is a moment of risk, danger, threat. Well, the square on the inside of the lifeline is possible hospitalization. And I would say that actually from the age of maybe 23 right up to 30 is, in and out of hospital. I would say there was some sort of accident here that may have, or not accident necessarily, but an operation where um, I don't know exactly the nature of this operation. It's possibly spinal. Maybe it's the heart. Maybe that's the overlapping, this doubling of the heart line is potentially another sign of this operation and what it means and what it is. So possibly it's some sort of heart operation. In any case, it certainly disabled them from being able to make as much money as they should be. You can see here support from the family, influences from the family all coming over and doing what they can to help this person in their time of need. And this really strengthens this person's feeling about loyalty and family and what this means for this person. Now, on the lifeline itself, this is about the age of 47, about there. And interestingly, you can see this Mercury line turning into, this money line. It's influenced by this time in their life. And shortly after, you can see the sort of breaking away, not breaking, it's not the right word, but there's a branching away of the lifeline where this person travels. And the reason why it tucks right round again into Venus is because it's not a forever travel. They will end up back in their native homeland again. But this branching outwards of the lifeline is a really positive sign because it means that this person will travel and explore and partly that's why we've got this leaning away of Mercury. There's a need here to move outside of their current way of living. They don't want to be um, confined by the um, current oppressive kind of laws of living that they have been living for so long. And what this will provide this person is, as I say, great sense of opportunity, and it will strengthen their ability to make money and essentially be happy later on. And as I say, later on, it's only a few years away for this person. I don't quite know what this person has been doing as far as a career goes, but I'm wondering if there was some sort of business, self-employment business they tried setting up in their mid-30s. Useful and practical hands, as I say, they're hard workers, and it wouldn't surprise me if this person has had, in fact, two different jobs, and they've tried for a very long time to juggle, and too many irons in the fire. That's what this is a classic case of. When you divide your attentions and efforts, then we quite often get less done. That's not to say this person's been doing things in the wrong way. Sometimes it's just necessary. I have two jobs. What I find really interesting is that this person's success, when you look really closely, it stems from low down into Luna travel. This person will be happy, will make money, will be successful in life, but not until they travel. And this travel is right around the corner for this person. It sort of looks like it's happening right now. I think they're just on the cusp of it. And this relationship as well, when we look at this relationship and the timing of it, from the heart line right up to the Mercury finger, it does in fact look like a relationship that is going to occur, I would say, about the age of 50, which is again just around the corner for this person. And that seems to corroborate with what we're seeing, the sun line. It strengthens after the heart line. It strengthens 55, 56. We really see it strengthen and come alive. So this is why I'm saying this person, they're entering a new chapter of their life very shortly. Chapter that will see a lot more happiness, a lot more freedom, a greater social network, a greater feeling of success, satisfaction, joy, and money. Am I a spiritual person? I love this question. And the reason why is because it's internal and it shows us actually, this person is highly introspective, or at least if you ask this kind of question, most people say, "Will I be famous? Will I be wealthy?" But if you ask us if they will be happy, or um, anything around sort of self-development, self-awareness, is exactly the kind of question you should be asking a palmist. Now, spirituality is seen in the tip of the Jupiter finger. There is a loop here seen in the fingerprint pattern, and this shows us fluidity, adaptability, flexibility, the ability to change, to soak up and absorb, and to see different perspectives in terms of religious or spiritual ideologies. And that's interesting because this person mentioned change. Notice how the fingertips here, this is conic or rounded, actually it's slightly spatulate, as is Apollo. Saturn appears to be somewhat conic. Jupiter is also conic, but it's slightly more pointed, which is quite common. But what we have here are actually fairly mixed fingertips, which is a sign of a composite hand, a mixed hand. And as I say, this person is a mixture of a useful and a practical hand. And as such, it's not been so easy to really um, draw from this person's hand type so much and understand. We have to really look at the things that stand out, like the complex and unusual palmar markings. But what this fingertip shows us is firstly someone who is very able to, again, soak up and perceive different religious or spiritual um, thinking, ways of practice. It shows a quickened response to perceptions, and to understand, and in turn break down and explain information. As I say, this person is not the best at um, describing and explaining, understanding and articulating their own emotional, complex thoughts and feelings. However, they are actually pretty good, with a spatulate, a really sort of call to action in terms of verbalization, vocalization. This person may well have a pretty good sort of verbal vocal abilities in that way, and the ability to break down and explain, to teach, is there. Now, teachers always have some sense of um, quite a strong ability to be spiritual or religious is there, at least somewhat. Might be dormant, because the best teachers, the mark of a teacher is, being humble and gracious, and safeguarding that information and passing it on. Teachers know and understand the importance of this. The slightly more pointed tip shows us, actually, it's a psychic sign. It's not, I would say, pointed altogether, but being slightly more pointed shows us this person has this kind of instinct when it comes to religious or spirituality. The flexibility and adaptive kind of nature as well combined really shows us this person will find their feet in terms of um, spirituality. If you look quite closely here, you can just about make out what is commonly referred to as a teacher's square. I'm not sure it's fully formed, but it is there. And here's an ambition line. So we're kind of drawing a bit of a picture about someone who is some way a bit of a guide. The heart line being so high and reaching so far onto Jupiter, it's always a sign of someone who's highly idealistic, and again, loyalty, family, strong, loving, faithful, committed relationships, not just in a partnership, but in terms of career, religion, what it is that they should be doing. There's quite a strong sense of faith here, which in some ways explains that this person has probably been hurt quite a few times in past relationships. Not necessarily in romantic relationships, uh, but with friends and business perhaps as well. And again, letting go of past hurts is very difficult for this person. Um, and partly, this inability to articulate feelings in the moment is part of that, is intertwined in that struggle. I do believe this person will meet someone very soon, and it will be a strong and long-lasting, loving and faithful relationship. And, and that relationship will likely be with someone who is quite analytical. Again, check out the analytical type on my blog, on my website. And for this person as well, it'd be useful for them to have a look at their hands and see what hand type they fit into, because they would most likely suit someone who is analytical and or practical, or a mixture of both. And that's because this person really requires someone who has a really strong emotional intelligence. And that's not to say that this person doesn't, but that ability to articulate emotions in the moment, meeting someone like that will make up for this person's inability to do that, because it will strengthen them, guide them, and help and support them and bring out the best in them. The fact that we don't see any interference here on the tip of Jupiter is actually a sign in itself of clarity. And am I a spiritual person? Well, there is certainly an ability to receive this higher information in quite an instinctive and almost psychic way, being that it's so pointed. This ability to soak up information is also seen in a relatively low set and large kind of, almost 90-degree angle here. We see that thumb, also a sign of a book lover. It's not quite 90 degrees, but there is a certain sort of openness and warmth about this person, despite the lifeline hugging quite closely into Venus. But as I say, that will change. This highly idealistic um, perception and characteristic is always seen in people who are highly spiritual. So to answer this question, I would say yes. However, there is something of a need to discover still. This little vertical line here seen on Jupiter is a really promising sign in terms of advancing, achieving socially, materially, um, financially. There's success here um, on the horizon. It's a surefire sign of um, advancement, achievement in self-discovery. It's the left hand. There is something of one on the right hand. I mean, here we have an ambition line, but it's kind of it's interrupted in some way, and then it begins to fully form and come into fruition. And I think that's tied in with what we see here. I think this person's life was kind of, in a sense, put on hold, and they've had this massive setback. And there's probably a feeling of that they, they've missed out. They're holding on to these feelings of how this previous um, episode has affected them, this event in their life, this operation potentially, this hospitalization. Um, but as I say, things are on the horizon for this person. Another sign of a highly spiritual person is, of course, the mystic cross, and it's seen in between the heart and the headline. For this person, you could spot it in potentially two different places. You could spot it here or here. And there's different formations of this cross and what these things mean. And it's extremely rare. And you'll see videos, articles on the mystic cross all over the internet. Almost all of them are rubbish. And I say that because for it to truly be a mystic cross, it needs to be completely isolated. It needs to not be touching or be formed out of the convergence of other minor or major Palmer lines. And I'm going to make a video on the Mystic Cross. There isn't one here, but it is a sign of someone who is highly spiritual, highly religious. It's often seen on the hands of priests, monks, spiritual healers, psychics, and religious sort of practitioners. Now, again, here you can see at 35 where the headline meets the fate line is the age of 35, and you can see this life event here. It's connected to the health. No, that's connected to the sun line, and it's all tied in. And 35 again is, I believe, this age where just everything kind of crashed to a halt for this person. So I've left this last question until last. What type of career should I be doing? Well, I believe it should be guiding, mentoring, helping, teaching, supporting, um, healing in some way. Although we don't see the classic teacher square in any great strength and detail on the Jupiter map, this palm, these hands do show some of the classic signs of a born teacher. The teacher's job is never ending in that it's important for us to continually learn in order to continually teach and pass on the message to us that we feel is so strong. And in this way, this person will gain a great sense of satisfaction because not only will they be doing something that they feel they are impacting on the lives of many positively with great effect and change, but they will in turn learn in the process, learn about themselves, learn about subject matters with which they have yet to really understand, which will help their self-development. And for this person, a lot of that is spiritual. But in order to really learn spiritually, we need to challenge and change the way in which we live, to move outside of our environment, which is what this person is, I believe, actually in the process of kind of doing right now. The fate line on the left hand appears to kind of come out, it sort of stems from underneath the Venus mount itself and rises upwards and hits this line here, and everything changes after this point. Everything changes. And it's almost as though this person their career had been decided for them, and that came crashing to a halt. It's almost as though they were in some sort of family business potentially. Now, they're not able to continue in down this path. Well, sometimes when a door closes, another opens. As I say, this move, it may well have already happened. It may well have been a few years ago. This person actually moved long distance, not forever, but it has or will impact on their life greatly. This move is a great decision. If they've already made it, brilliant. Stay on the same track that you're on because great things are soon to happen for you. And if you haven't made this move, I believe you already have, or you're in the, you know, processes of making this great change, this great move and travel. It's something that you should certainly do. At age 56, I believe there will be more travel. Utilize these opportunities. Definitely, this is a great idea. If something comes along, an opportunity presents itself for travel at this time, absolutely take it, because this will really spark this potential for success and joy and happiness. I'm looking to change. Not a question as such, but I will advise where I can based on what I'm seeing in these hands. And that is when we see a disconnect between the life and the headline, this is both a head and a heart, of course, it does show us a detachment of thought from environment, from thinking in the way we're living, from thinking in the moment. It is a great sign of independence. It's certainly an independent person. As I say, a hard worker, and that's also seen by the leaning away of the Mercury. This isn't someone who's going to be confined, um, and that also, this breaking away of the potential sort of family business, or at least some idea of what family decided for this person in life. In a way, this closing of this door is a good thing because it now means this person, or at least at that time, had some sort of opportunity in changing their own destiny. But what this spacing means is that although it's certainly a sign of someone who thinks in a very non-conformist way, radical thinking, it's also a great sign of impatience and a risk taker, someone who will, you know, be just get impatient when stuck behind a tractor on the road and make an unnecessary or unsafe overtake because of that impatience, because of that risk-taking factor. So, partly of my advice is big decisions, never make them in the moment, especially when you're feeling impatient or um, crabby. Always take time when it comes to making big decisions. Never make decisions in the moment. Do not gamble. I don't think you would be a terrible gambler, but I also don't think that you would be a good one. That's just not a good idea. People with this sign often give a great deal of themselves without thought, especially you, because you're so giving with your heart. Everything, you give everything all the time. And there's a tendency to give without considering yourself. Again, these two fingers leaning in on each other shows this great sense of consideration, this sense of duty and morality towards what can I give, how can I make my talents and my abilities, how can I provide for others. It's really important that you gain a sense of satisfaction from your contribution towards society. However, it's important you don't give too much of yourself and that you get enough back. For too long, you've not been getting enough back. You've not been getting paid for the efforts you've been providing. My advice would be to not to settle in any respect, in relationship, in a career, in friendships even. Don't surround yourself with people or organizations that might take more from you than you're giving, than you're getting back. For great change to occur, it is important to both look within, understand within, but also to change our current way of living, our environment. And travel for you is going to enable that. Because when we're in a different scenario, in a different setting, we're forced to some way challenge ourselves. If we're facing a language barrier, we're forced to in some way communicate with our bodies in a way that we didn't before. It forces our hand, and it's through the challenge that we enable change. Now, simply this lifeline plugging so closely is, as I say, this is someone who has few friends and few family. There's a lacking of trust almost in some ways, and that's probably because you've given so much of yourself to the wrong people at times. at the same time, it's really important to try to step outside of your comfort zone, which I believe you may well have already done, or you're in the process of doing. And there will be other opportunities for this. And this is exactly what you should be looking towards doing. You are a spiritual person, but there's room for growth and expansion here. And again, that won't happen unless we challenge ourselves and step outside of the known world. In relationships, there is a potential for feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and and this is partly what the Simian line its effects have, because our feelings and thoughts are fused, logic and heart, mind, and the heart are so fused together, so it really becomes difficult to compartmentalize, and especially for someone who has this mark of the tiger, as it's known, someone who leaps before they think. The detachment here is extremely important in relationships, in friendships, to take a step back as much as possible. Whenever you find yourself confronted with feeling of hurt or insecurity or doubt, take a step back and try to see the situation for what it is from a different perspective, sleep on it before coming to a conclusion, before biting back. Unfortunately, this is the power of the simian line. It's overpowering. The pros to this, though, the positive effects are that you are so able to give everything, that you have a laser-like focus, and that is a strength if harnessed. Teaching, guiding, healing, counseling, potentially. There are strengths here in terms of what you should do for a career. I believe something within society to help socially. Health and social care might be a good fit as well. It is how we can improve and affect the lives of many, positive change at the same time as gaining a great sense of satisfaction, knowing that the work we do is uh, it's very positive. We're doing good. It's not been the easiest of readings, partly because this is quite a mixed hand. Certainly not straightforward in terms of compelling type. I hope this has answered all the questions, and I hope all those watching have learned a few things as well. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.